I fell asleep, but we're gonna have a history lesson this morning. Y'all, I went and got this crappy biscuit. I actually took, it was so much bread, and I'm not used to eating a lot of bread. I actually took half of the bread off, and of course I had mayonnaise and mustard packets, because you gotta have those. My foundation is too dark up top. Oh well, I'm going to work out after this, so it don't matter. It does not matter. But yeah. So I just got set up on the Wi-Fi. This place is awesome. Yeah. Oh. Y'all, Georgia is beautiful. If you've never been to Georgia, it's gorgeous. This weather has got my skin so dry. So dry. It's colder up here, that's for sure. Look at this picture I took. Is that not like just perfect? Oh, I was there. I was there. I stayed overnight at a Planet Fitness. And I've actually stayed at that one before. They're really cool. They don't bother nobody. It's not a problem. Not all of the Planet Fitnesses are a bunch of weirdos, just the majority. Y'all. Oh, I gotta walk in here and get the damn password. It's not letting me get on with my computer or this, but that phone's on. I'll be right there. Jesus freaking Christ. It's always something. Alright. Lord. I don't know how I forgot that. That's like literally so easy. Shibbity boop 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 boop. Now I'm out of breath because I ran. Dude in there was like, "Are you okay? Fuck you, dude. Don't speak to me. You fucking weirdo." Some creep being a creep. He ain't even in laundry. He's just lounging around. Y'all. Be careful out here. They're everywhere. He doesn't give a fuck if I'm okay. Cut me a break, dude. Cut me a break. Here we go. Yay. But for some reason, my iPhone's being stupid because, you know, iPhone. That's what they do. They're dumb as hell. Let me tell you. I don't know why anybody feeds into that shit. I will never buy Apple again. It's a waste of money. Their products are shitty. And you have too many freaking passwords. And Lord forbid, if you forget your Apple ID, you'll never access your personal information in your phone again. Apple will tell you there's nothing they can do to help you. So you're locked out of your device for life. Computer, phone, whatever it may be. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's like Tesla. You can only take the Tesla to get worked on at Tesla dealerships. Well, just because I'm homeless doesn't mean like I have to look like I'm homeless. You know, I've only been homeless for 2 years. So since the economy went into a recession, just because I'm homeless doesn't mean like I have to look like it. You know, I see some people out here that live in homes that look like they homeless, honey. You will never catch me running around like that. Maybe first thing in the morning, maybe before I go to bed, maybe when I don't feel good. But for the most part, I make an honest effort to take care of myself, and I always have. And that's why I look younger than my age. So, you know, showering every day, eating a healthy meal, drinking lots of water. Speaking of which, let me get some. This coffee is strong. It came from, I don't know, what is the S for? Speedway. And I got a crappy biscuit. I only ate half of the bread because I don't trust this stuff. Stuff like that typically makes me sick. It didn't, thank God. But yeah, I'm excited about this new park this morning. I'm going to a new park. Yeah, I have to use the parks to shower. So, yeah. I will never spend money with Planet Fitness again after what they did to me. Ever. Ever. All in the name of politics, right? Let's lock all the homeless people up. Because we don't have housing for them. Because we spend all of our money on illegal immigration, taking care of people that are not even citizens. Smart. So I want to talk about the Civil War because when I was growing up, I didn't learn anything because my teachers never taught me anything because they were too busy beating me. So I grew up in a time where teachers could hit and restrain students, and they used to. And because I grew up in an abusive home, I had behavioral problems at school, and so that affected my learning. Because I grew up in foster care, group homes, I was a ward of the state. So because of that, those children that are in foster care, that are in DHS custody, they do not get ample education. They actually don't get any education because they're being bounced around so much. Their minds can't attach to curriculum. It's really sad because there's millions of children that are in foster care, DHS custody, bouncing from home to home, and these children do not get an education. And I was one of those children. We did learn about the Civil War at some point, but the way that they used to teach, there was no one-on-one time, and you couldn't, I don't know, it was just different, you guys, you know? Like I said, they would rather beat you than teach you. That's how it was where I went to school. They could restrain you. They would throw you in a room, leave you in there all day until your parents come to pick you up. You would literally be in a brick enclosure for the entire day at school. No book, no nothing, just 4 walls and a child in a room, and they would leave you there until your parents come and got you after school. So I spent, I would say, probably 2 years in confinement in elementary school like that, and then I spent probably a year of confinement in middle school before I went off to high school in Greensboro. Once I landed in high school in Greensboro, things were completely different. They they actually had problem children in this school, you know, kids bringing guns to school, kids killing each other on campus. We lost a kid my freshman year of school. He died on campus while I was at school. It was crazy. They had actual problem child. So once I made it to high school, I didn't have those problems anymore. And I actually started to thrive since I was not getting beat and restrained and spit on and punched in the throat by teachers. Then I started to thrive. I joined sports. I was a majorette. I joined the dance team. My grades, I started getting straight A's. And things kind of changed when I got out of the white southern school districts. I ended up going to a all-black school, and I had no problems there. So I didn't learn anything because they didn't teach anything. So it's unfortunate. I look back on my childhood and I don't understand why all of these adults were taking their anger out on me. I would go home and get beat by my parents. Then I would go to school, get thrown in a damn brick enclosure and sit there for, you know, from 8 a.m. to 2:30 when school would let out. And if I wasn't being isolated in a brick enclosure, then I was being either physically restrained or, once again, assaulted by teachers on a daily basis. And then then my teacher would call my mom and say that I was being a problem. Then I'd go home and get my ass beat. So I was getting beat from every single direction as a child. I don't know how. I really think that it's God that gave me my moral foundation and value system, and I've always had the same system as a child. So if it were not for God, I could have grown up to be one of the worst, like, violent offenders ever. Do you see what I'm saying? Just because of the upbringing that I had and the lack of education, I should have not made it this far. Most children don't. Most children end up committing a crime, going to prison, and continuing that process over and over and over. I am not one of those people, fortunately. So the crazy part is like, I'm like, when did the Civil War happen and who was that between? When I was originally looking this up last night, and you ever heard like a phrase 1,000 times and and then one day it just clicks in your brain and you're like, oh, so the Civil War was actually between us, Americans. Civil. God, I'm so dumb sometimes. So it was actually between the North and the South, and there wasn't really Republicans or Democrats back then. There were Democrats. The Republican Party, my nose is running. Are you for real? The Republican Party was actually started by a bunch of anti-slavery activists, most of which were black, but there was white men involved too. I just brushed my teeth and started putting on makeup, and I feel like my forehead is so dark. The lighting on camera is different than the lighting when I'm putting on makeup. Alright, so it's crazy because I did not put two and two together. And you know, my grandmother had the whole series of North and South. They made a movie about it, you guys, in like the 80s. She had the entire box set, North and South. Oh, it had Patrick Swayze. Damn, he was fine back then. Is that Hugh Jack? No. Y'all. No, I want the 1980s. Listen, my grandma had the whole box set. It was, I don't know, it was like 10 or 20 movies called North and South, and it was about the Civil War. I'd never put two and two together. I never put two and two together until I was researching this last night. So essentially, the southern states got together. That was the Confederate. Oh, and learning all of this makes me feel completely different about the Confederate flag now. So that was the Confederacy. And we're going to talk about this. Let me just start with the American Civil War. Started in April of 1861, and it went on to 1865. it was the Civil War in the United States. So it was the North and the Southern states that clashed. And actually, the main purpose of this war was to end slavery, which is even crazier. So the Union was the North and the Confederacy was the South. So sad that they do not teach this stuff. They don't anymore. They might have when I was in school, but they don't anymore. The central conflict leading to war was a dispute over whether slavery should be permitted to expand in the Western territories out towards Colorado, California. They wanted, the Democrats wanted to expand the South, the Confederacy, wanted to expand slavery through all of the states. They were called the Confederate States of America. The Confederacy, or the South, was an unrecognized breakaway republic in the southern United States that existed from 1961 to 1965. The Confederacy was composed of 11 U.S. states that declared secession: South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina. Now, I read somewhere else that they were their own kind of entity for about 4 years until the North whooped their ass, but they were kind of trying to separate themselves from the rest of the United States, and they wanted their own laws and they wanted, how can I explain it? They wanted to essentially break away from the rest of the United States so that they could implement slavery. It was all about slavery. That's all they cared about. And it was the Democratic Party that was running it, which is crazy that things have flipped, and we're going to talk about that. So the North was actually fighting to not only preserve the Union, which was our military and everything that our founding fathers had started, but they were also fighting to end slavery. Though scholars energetically debate whether or not the Confederate States of America achieved nationhood, there is no denying that the Confederacy acted as a separate country for the 4 years of its existence. While the United States continued to operate normally, elections, parties, campaigns, state and congressional legislation, court rulings, etc., during the Civil War, the Confederacy labored to raise an infant government from birth while simultaneously fighting a war for independence. In political terms, the Confederacy was a failure from the start, crippled by the towering egos of its leaders, states' rights ideology, and a total lack of infrastructure. In the United States, on the other hand, the Republican Party governed effectively, fought off Democratic challenges, passed landmark legislation, and ended slavery, and successfully put down domestic rebellion. The political differences in the well-established United States the political differences between the well-established United States and the could-be Confederate States are key to understanding the course and the outcome of the Civil War. So you have a bunch of rich Democrats living in the South, okay, from North Carolina all the way over to damn Texas, honey. And they want to expand slavery throughout the United States. They want to bring in more slaves. They want to ship more slaves over. They want to slave trade and hold these people hostage and turn them into workhorses. And the North said, absolutely not. This is so wrong. This is why the Republican Party was invented. This is why these anti-slavery activists came together to prevent the South, the Confederacy, and to get Lincoln into office so that he could start this war to end slavery. And he would go on to do that. The goal of the Confederate States of America was clear: a new independent nation based on deep racial and class inequalities. Our new government, declared Rebel Vice President Alexander Stephens of Georgia in March of 1861, quote, rests upon the great truth that the black man is not equal to the white man. Well, he's burning in hell by now. The form of government adopted, a loose confederacy, had already proven a failure in American history. The Articles of Confederation, drafted by the Second Congress in November of 1777 and in effect until September of 1788, was woefully inadequate for the needs of the young United States, and thus the Founding Fathers replaced it with the Constitution. And I think that word is continual. Y'all, listen, this was wrote in like the 1700s. I don't know. Anyways, so the Articles of Confederation, drafted by the Second Congress in November of 77 and effective until 1788, was woefully inadequate for the needs of young United States, and thus the Founding Fathers replaced it with the Constitution, creating a new central government supreme above the states. Southern rebels in 1861, obsessed with state sovereignty, and in a furious hurry return the concept of confederacy for their new government, a decision that would prove disastrous. So they wanted to divide people, and they wanted to base everything around race. But now they got all these DEI programs. They want to be inclusive. There's a flip that's happened. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So, actually, we'll talk about it right now. The Democratic and Republican parties have not always had the same ideas that they have today. In fact, America's two dominant political parties have essentially flipped ideologies in the time that they were founded. The Democratic Party was founded in 1828, while the Republican Party dates back to 1854. In its early years, the Republican Party was considered quite liberal, while the Democrats were known for such staunch conservatism. This is the exact opposite of how each party would be described today. This change did not happen overnight. However, instead it was a slow set of changes and policies that caused the Great Switch. So at the outbreak of the Civil War, Republicans controlled the majority of the northern states. The party sought to expand the United States, encourage settlement of the West, and help to fund the transactional railroad and the state universities. Additionally, because of growing tension over slavery, many Republicans became abolitionists. Am I saying that right? Do I get a cookie for that? Because I think that's how you say it. Abolitionist? Did I say it right? Oh, well then don't come here. I'm sorry you feel that way. You can fact check me. I have no reason to spread misinformation. This is all facts. This is all history. This is a history lesson this morning. Good morning. Abolitionist. Sorry, I just want to make sure I can nail that one next time. Because it's a hard one. Additionally, So Democrats represented a range of views, but shared a commitment to Thomas Jefferson. What is a agrarian? They viewed this. So Democrats agreed with Thomas Jefferson's concept of a agrarian farming society. That sounds like some racist shit. What is that? Well, we know that the Democrats were pressing to bring more slaves over so that they could So it's an agricultural society, but they were wanting to do this with black men. They were wanting to do this with slaves. They were wanting to expand into the West with more slaves. It's crazy. So the Democrats, they viewed the central government as the enemy of individual liberty. Because most Democrats were in southern states, they fought to keep slavery legal. Y'all, look at Abe. I was looking at Abraham Lincoln. All of this is actually compiled just from stuff that I made my own story with. Wiki was pissing me off, so I had to go find the truth. So it's a compilation of like 10 different websites. Post-Civil War policy. As the war came to a close, the Republican Party controlled the government and used its power to protect formerly enslaved people and guaranteeing them civil rights. This included the 3 Reconstruction Amendments, and I hope I'm saying that right, which won Republicans the loyalty and vote of Americans' black population. Unsurprisingly, most Democrats disapproved of these measures. So, once the Republican Party was started, I want to see, so was it that they started the Republican Party and then they helped Lincoln get into office and then Lincoln started the Civil War to, I don't know, this is why I'm asking. So if anybody can tell me the process of events, then I would love that, because, morning Ken, good morning Anthony, timeline of civil, well, that's not right because it's going to pull up the Civil War. They created the Republican Party. The Republican Party helped get Lincoln in office. He was the first Republican president. Then we fought the Civil War, and then he abolished slavery. Is that the process of events? Does anybody know? So the war came to an end. The Democrats not the war. The Republican Party started passing laws to help these enslaved black slaves, and the Democrats were completely opposed to it. However, a change had begun in the Republican Party following the Civil War. Northern industrialists had grown rich from the war, and many entered politics afterwards. These new wealthy politicians did not see much sense in supporting the rights of black Americans when the nation was largely white. By the 1870s, many in the Republican Party felt that they had done enough for black citizens and stopped all efforts to reform the southern states. The South was left to the white Democrats and their oppressive policy towards black citizens after the Compromise of 1877 ended Reconstruction. With the end of the Reconstruction, the solid South voted Democratic presidential candidates in for the next 44 years. Shit's crazy. This is why they don't teach it in school. Yeah, they're brainwashing a whole future generation of leftists. They don't want them to know the truth. So Democrats have been evil from the start. Fun fact. Oh, God, okay. I really want to know this timeline. I might have to look it up in a minute, but I'm going to continue on. So almost 60 years later, the Great Depression became a catalyst for a massive political shakeup. The Republican Party had continued to be dominated by wealthy businessmen, which meant that they had come to favor policies that supported big business. These policies were effective when the economy was booming, but were disastrous when it wasn't. When the economy crashed in 1929, the Great Depression, the Republican president, Herbert Hoover, opted not to intervene, earning him and his party the ire of the American public. Ire? Y'all, why don't they write shit just normal? Anger. People were pissed. People were pissed. So, Franklin D. Roosevelt, a Democrat, sensed the need for change. He campaigned on a promise of government intervention, financial assistance, and a concern for welfare of the people. He won in 1932 by a landslide. It was FDR, I got dyslexia, campaign policies that caused a major shift in party ideologies. You just gonna throw 3 letters out there like I'm supposed to know who that is? FDR. Oh, Franklin, you already said it. Franklin D. Roosevelt. So it was FDR's policies that caused a major shift in parties for some reason. Republicans opposed everything about FDR's government. Primarily, they saw the growth of the large government as harmful to the federalist foundation of the nation. This, too, has came to define the ideals of the Republican Party. I don't get it, but whatever. I'm just going to keep it moving. The Civil Rights Movement. This was crazy. I did not know that they didn't get voting rights till 1954, y'all. Why don't they teach us shit in school? It wasn't that long ago, is my point. All of this was not that long ago. I think it's been 160 years. That's not that long. I mean, listen. Maybe I just feel different. Race inequality began to return to the center of politics in the 1950s and 60s. Race did not necessarily fall into a party viewpoint at this point. Instead, it was more of a regional issue. Southern Democrats and Republicans both opposed the early civil rights movement, while Northern Democrats and Republicans began to support legislation as the movement picked up steam. So, once again, even 100 years after the Civil Damn War, approximately, the southern states, Democrats and Republicans, absolutely refused to support any kind of African American rights. It was the northern Democrats and Republicans that began to support legislation and support African American people. Every time I see a rebel flag now, I'm going to think you're a racist. For real. Because the rebel flag was the flag for the Confederacy, who was fighting to expand slavery. Listen, if you're carrying that flag around, you're living in the past, honey. And you probably support slavery still. I'm just saying, that was the Confederate flag, was for the Confederate Army, who was in support of slavery. Let's just be clear. I wonder what the Union flag looked like. And if you've never seen the Confederate flag, I'll show it to you. The Grand Union flag, also known as the Congress flag, was the first Navy sign. And is considered to be the first. Well, why don't you show me a picture of it, you dumbass? Why don't you just tell me what it looks like? Why don't you show me what it looks like? I'm so over Google. Well, there's so many, I don't know. Civil War. Oh, it was the American flag. Okay. And y'all don't know what a Confederate flag looks like, right? So, our flag was the American flag, the Union's. And they had the Confederate flag. So, and you know, there was a huge debate over that years ago. And everybody's like, oh, it's a part of history. It's a part of a movement that wanted to expand slavery, honey. And hundreds of thousands of men died for this movement. So I'm just saying, you got to be a die-hard racist to go die for the cause, in my opinion. But what do I know? That's why we're learning together. So anyways, in 1964, Democratic President Lyndon B. Johnson signed a Civil Rights Act into law. In the 1964 election, Republican candidate Barry Goldwater publicly opposed the new law, arguing that it expanded the power of the federal government to a dangerous level. It was this argument that led to a final decisive switch. Black voters who had historically been loyal to the Republican Party because of the 1866 Civil Rights Act had already been switching to the Democratic Party. So that's when it happened. Okay. However, upon hearing Goldwater's argument against the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the majority of black voters left the Republican Party in favor of the Democrats. It wasn't even 100 years and y'all forgot that they were the ones enslaving y'all? It wasn't even whatever. I'm just saying, I would have never forgot. And I'll be damned if I'm supporting people that enslaved my ancestors. They saw the Democratic Party as advocates for equality and justice, while the Republicans were too concerned with keeping the status quo in America. As the 1960s and 70s continued, Democrats sought reform in other places, such as abortion and school prayer, while Southern Democrats began to resist how much the Democratic Party was intervening into the rights of people, and they still do. Like, that's the problem. They done regulated everything. You can't even breathe anymore. By the 1980s, white Southern Democrats had become Republicans, and the majority of the South was now Republican. The Republican Party now is a solid conservative, while the Democratic Party is a liberal one. So the Democrats started out as conservatives, the Republicans started out as liberals, and in 100 and something years, those parties have switched. African American communities are not being taught history, and I know because I wasn't taught history. And they don't even realize that those were the people that were actually originally enslaving their ancestors, which is crazy but true and sad. So it says the war of the Confederates, the South and the North. I want to watch a movie on this so bad, y'all, because I want to see, like, because I learned about all these colonels last night that I'm not going to read here today because it's complex. But I want to see how things played out. The war began with the Confederates bombarded. They bombarded the Union soldiers at Fort Sumter, South Carolina, on April 12th, 1861. And the war ended in the spring of 1865 with Robert E. Lee surrendered the last major Confederate army to Ulysses S. So states that fought in this war, the South, these were the Confederate states, the ones that wanted to continue slavery and expand it to the West, were Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. So all of those states band together and they fought against the Union in support of slavery, wanting to turn it into money. They didn't view black people as individuals. They viewed them as workhorses. Decades of controversy over slavery were brought and heard when Abraham Lincoln, who was opposed to slavery, he was opposed to the expansion of it. He won the 1860 president. Okay, so it was so they created the Republican Party, and then they helped Lincoln win the presidency. Okay, that's what I needed to know, because the Republican Party was created in 1854, and then he won his presidency 4 years later, and he was the first Republican president. And he would later be shot, and we're going to talk about that. God, some crazed Democrat shot him. No way! Of course, some guy that wanted to damn expand slavery was mad at Lincoln. Y'all, he lost his life trying to help others. So he won in 1860, the presidential election. 7 southern slave states responded to Lincoln's victory by seceding from the United States and forming the Confederacy. So there we go. Now I'm getting a timeline. So when Lincoln won his presidency, all of these southern states got worried because they knew that he was opposed to the expansion of slavery. They got worried. They came together and built the Confederacy. The Confederacy seized U.S. forts and other federal assets within their borders. The war began in 1861 when the Confederacy bombarded Fort Sumter in South Carolina. A wave of enthusiasm for war swept over the North and the South as military recruitment soared. 4 more southern states succeeded after the war began, and led by its president, Jefferson Davis, the Confederacy asserted control over a third U.S. population in 11 states. 4 years of intense combat, mostly in the South, ensued. During the during 1861 to 1862, the Western Theater, the Union made permanent gains, though in the Eastern Theater, the conflict was inconclusive. The abolition is that how you say that? The abolition of slavery became a Union war goal on January 1st, 1863, when Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared all slaves in rebel states to be freed, applying to more than 3.5 million of the 4 million enslaved people in the country at the time. To the west, the Union first destroyed the Confederacy River Navy by the summer of 1862, then much of its western theater. The Union made permanent gains. Hold on. Always damn these screenshots. So, I want to read about... Where did it go? What in the frick? Y'all, I'm not good with technology. Anybody want to come down? Help me with technology. I need a videographer. I need a... What they call them people that do video editor. I need... So, the Emancipation Proclamation is considered one of the most important documents in American history. It marked a significant shift in Lincoln's views on slavery and redefined the Civil War, turning it from a fight to preserve the Union into a fight to end slavery. So the Civil War, you guys, the Civil War was not only to protect the Union, but the majority of the reason that it was even fought was to free the slaves. So the next time you're out here, what has my government done for me? Well, how many Union soldiers died in the Civil War? Almost 400,000. Horrible. But they got it done. And they kicked ass, they took names, they put in the Emancipation Proclamation, and that freed over 3.5 million slaves. And there was around 4 million. So let's see. The successful 1863 Union siege of Vicksburg split the Confederacy at the Mississippi River. It split them in two at the Mississippi River. While the Confederate General Robert E. Lee's incursion north failed at the Battle of Gettysburg, Western successes led to the General, there's that damn name again, Ulysses S. Grant. I hope I'm saying that right, y'all. I don't know. Command of the Union armies in 1864, inflicting an ever-tightening naval blockade of Confederate ports. The Union marshaled resources and manpower to attack the Confederacy from all directions. This led to the fall of Atlanta in 1864 to Union General William Sherman, followed by his march to the sea. The last significant battles raged around the 10-month siege of Petersburg, gateway to the Confederate capital of Richmond. The Confederates abandoned Richmond, and on April 9th of 1865, the Confederate Army surrendered. The Lee, Julius, was that his damn name? Yes. No, that's, who's Lee? Oh, Robert E. Lee. He was the head of the Confederacy. He surrendered. And a lot of these men that fought for the Union, they were black men that also died. They knew that Lincoln was trying to free the slaves, and so they willingly went to war. So a lot of these almost 400,000 men that died fighting to end slavery and preserve the Union and preserve what our founding fathers had started in this country, a lot of those men were also African, and I thought it said like 150, but we'll look it up in a second. By the end of the war, from the South and the North, the Confederacy and the Union, by the end of the war, much of the South's infrastructure was destroyed. The Confederacy collapsed, slavery was abolished, and 4 million enslaved black people were freed. The war-torn nation then entered the Reconstruction era in an attempt to rebuild the country, bring the former Confederate states back to the United States, because once again, for 4 years, they acted as their own entity. They were the United States of the South, the Confederacy. So they were acting as their own government, which was problematic because our founding fathers did not have that in mind. That's not what they intended for, to happen, from states to break off from other states. We were supposed to be the United States of America. This is what happens when you get one or two weirdos in there with bad ideas. So they wanted to bring the former Confederate states back to the United States and grant civil rights to free slaves. The war is one of the most extensively studied and written about episodes in U.S. history. It remains the subject of cultural and historiographical debate. Of continuing interest is the fading myth of the lost cause of the Confederacy. The war was among the first to use industrial warfare, railroads, and the electrical telegraph, steamships, and ironclad warships, and mass-produced weapons were widely used. The war left between 620 and 750,000 soldiers dead, along with an undetermined number of civilian casualties. Sorry, y'all. Casualties, Brooke. Making the Civil War the deadliest military conflict in American history. Wow. Let's see. I want to see how many. And I wonder if they were forced to fight in the Civil War. Did they volunteer or were they forced? But, wow. No, they volunteered. 180,000 African-American men volunteered to fight in the Civil War, serving primarily in the Union Army and making up roughly 10% of the total Union forces. I bet without that 10%, we might not have won that war. That is crazy. And these soldiers were known as the United States Colored Troops. I don't know about that, boss. How about just the United States troops? Whoa, this is wild. I had no clue. Nobody tells me shit. And nobody, nowadays, trying to have a conversation with somebody about something like this, nobody knows. Nobody knows. So it says the motivation behind their volunteering. Many African Americans joined the fight to gain their freedom from slavery, especially after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued in 1863. The war would still go on to fight for another 2 years after he put in the proclamation. The war didn't end until 65. So it's just crazy. This is what we need taught in school. Not gender studies. Wow, there was another 19,000 that served on Navy ships. I want to learn a little about the history of what it was like for them. So the first official authorization to employ African Americans in federal service was the Second Confiscation and Militia Act, and I don't know, it's CONFISCAT Tion. I don't know. Militia Act of 1762. Of 1862. So that would have been a year after the war started, because it started in 61. Yes, 1861. So almost a year after they allowed Abraham, it says the act allowed President Abraham Lincoln to receive into the military service persons of African American descent and gave permission to use them for any purpose. Now, once again, these were volunteers. These were not men that were drafted. These were men that volunteered. He just passed a bill stating that African American men could be used as military if they wanted to be, to help the Union. And Lincoln said, quote, he may be judged best for the public welfare. Saying this is an honorable man. Any man that wants to join the Union and fight for a good cause to end slavery. Oh, it says they couldn't even start fighting until 1863 because he had to pass. They couldn't even join until 63 because of he had to pass the Emancipation Proclamation in January of 83. And he said, and I further declare and make known that such persons of suitable condition will be received into the armed service of the United States to garrisons, forts, positions, stations, and other places, and to man vessels all sort in said service. With these words, the Union Army changed. Man, what a man. I had no clue that Abraham Lincoln was just like so amazing. You know how like brave you would have to be to take a stand like that and have all of these southern states, a Confederate army ready to slit your throat because you want to damn save people? I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, clearly, he went through a lot because all of his pictures, he looks like he's been rode hard and hung up wet, honey. So I'm sure it was not an easy life. And I'm glad that we celebrate Lincoln because we should. He's definitely one of the best presidents, if not up there as maybe the best, for what he did in his time. And then he would later go on to be murdered in a theater because of his beliefs. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I was trying to figure out exactly some more information about these African American soldiers that joined the Union Army to end slavery. Very interesting stuff, man. So let's talk about that because I feel like I took screenshots, or did I not? I didn't. He was the 16th president, Abe Lincoln. He was born in Kentucky. And he was assassinated in 1865, right after the war? What? What? No! What the fuck? Hold on one second. So, I have so many more questions now. This is crazy. So he literally ended slavery and the war and then gets shot like a month later? Hold on, when did the war end? It was 65, but what month? That's crazy. To go through all that hard work. May of 1865, and then he was assassinated January, February, March, April. He was assassinated a month later, y'all. So they won the war May 5th of 1865, and then April 14th of 1865, he's shot and killed in a theater. He got to live a whole month and a few days. That is wild. I never knew, like, those dates are so close together. They wanted to kill him at this point. After he won the war, I have no doubt that there was tons of people trying to kill him. The Democrats down south were pissed. The Confederacy, even though the war was over, you know that they still held hostile intent towards this man because he was helping the slaves. He had freed all the slaves, and he had given the blacks rights, you know, so you got to live a month after all your hard work. Poor guy. Poor guy. So he was born in 1809, died in April 15th of 1865, just a month after he won the Civil War, freed the slaves, abolished slavery, and he expanded the power of the federal government, and he started modernizing the U.S. economy. Lincoln was born into poverty in a log cabin in Kentucky, was raised on the frontier, mainly in Indiana. He was a self-educated person and become a lawyer, part of the Whig Party. He became a legislator in Illinois and a U.S. representative from Illinois. You know something that I was looking at when I was reading all this stuff last night? They used to be so much smarter than we are nowadays. Our founding fathers, y'all, I bet they had IQs of like 160, because to write the Declaration of Independence, to write, sorry, I'm having a brain fart. What's the other one, y'all, with all of the damn things on it? Y'all know what I mean. To write all of that stuff and to set up our foundation, they would have had to have been pretty damn smart. Smarter than anybody we have in office nowadays. I can promise you that, honey. This man didn't even go to college, and he was self-educated, and he was able to abolish slavery. I'm just saying that I think people were smarter back then than they are today. That's all I'm saying. I mean, they had to have been, at least a few of them, at least our founding fathers, at least Abraham Lincoln. Look at everything he got done in just a few years. They just don't make them like that anymore. I feel like we've de-evolved as a country. I feel like we've de-evolved. So, in 1849, he returned to his successful law practice in Springfield, Illinois. In 1854, angered by the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which opened the territories to slavery, he re-entered politics. This man dedicated his whole life to freeing the slaves. He left politics and had a successful law office, making probably very good money for the time. And he was pissed that the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which opened more territories, expanding slavery, that was enough to set him off, and he re-entered politics with the intent of doing something about it. I mean, they just don't make them like that anymore. That's all I'm saying. They don't make them like that anymore. He soon became the leader of the new Republican Party. He reached a national audience in the 1858 Senate campaign debates against Stephen A. Douglas. Lincoln ran for president in 1860, sweeping the North to gain victory, and just 5 years later, he'd end up dead. Pro-slavery elements in the South viewed his election as a threat to slavery, and Southern states began seceding from the nation. They formed the Confederate States of America, which began seizing federal military bases in the South. A little over 1 month after Lincoln assumed presidency, the Confederate forces attacked Fort Sumter, a U.S. fort in South Carolina. Following the bombardment, Lincoln mobilized forces to suppress the rebellion and restore the Union. God, what would have happened if we wouldn't have won that war? What would America look like now if the Democrats would have won, the Confederacy would have won them southern states? And actually, it wasn't just Republicans that were part of the Union. There was a lot of Democrats that were part of the Union as well, fighting to abolish slavery. So, yes, the southern states were Democrats, and it was the Democrats against a lot of the Republicans, but also there were people that were Democrats that fought for the Union war as well. It's crazy. I want to hear about his death, though. Lincoln was largely self-educated. His formal schooling was from teachers. That included 2 short stints in Kentucky where he learned to read, but probably not to write. Yeah, we're getting dumber. And this was due to farm chores. He was expected to work on the farm, not be in school learning. I guess it was a way different time. He only attended school sporadically for a total of fewer than 12 months by the age of 15 years old. Nonetheless, he remained an avid reader and retained a lifelong interest in learning. So he had less than 12 months of actual schooling, and he was able to beat the Confederate Army, put in a proclamation to free the slaves, and abolish slavery. And y'all think we getting smarter. Oh, God. He literally, bless it. I mean, that might be a little bit of God in there. That might have been God on his side, let me just say, because clearly he didn't even know how to write, is what they're saying. They're saying, that's what it said. It said he knew how to read, but probably not write. Didn't he sign shit and write the Declaration of Proclamation or whatever? Y'all know what it is. I want to hear about his death because it's crazy. And I was like, how did that dude even get in the theater? So first of all, he was shot in the head and he actually lived to the next morning. I was like, how was that even possible? I guess guns were different back then. They weren't maybe as accurate, as strong, or as reliable as the guns today. So it kind of makes sense that, he was hit in the head with a bullet, but might have been alive. I think that was common back then. And there's so much history here. Assassination. John Wilkes Booth was a well-known actor. That's how he got in the building. He was an actor. I was like, how did this asshole even get close to Lincoln? Oh, because he was an actor. He worked in the theater. Had been in the theater. He had contacts and contracts in the theater because he was an actor. He was also a Confederate spy from Maryland. Though he never joined the Confederate Army, he had contacts with the Confederate Secret Service. After attending Lincoln's last public address on April 11th of 18, in which Lincoln stated his preference that the franchise be conferred on some black men, specifically on the very intelligent and those who serve our cause as soldiers. Booth hatched a plan to assassinate the president. When Booth learned of Lincoln's intent to attend a play with General Grant, he planned to assassinate Lincoln and Grant at the Ford's Theater. How sad. Imagine all the great things he could have done if he wasn't assassinated. I mean, he was only president for just less than 5 years, right at 4 or 5 years, and he moved miracles. Booth had attended a dress rehearsal the day before to better rehearse the scheme for shooting Lincoln and then escaping. Lincoln and his wife attended the play, Our American Cousin, on the evening of April 14th, just 5 days after the Union victory at the Battle of Courthouse. At the last minute, Grant decided to go to New Jersey to visit his children instead of attending the play. So the Grant wasn't there. The General Grant wasn't there. It was just Lincoln and his wife. And Booth would sneak up behind him and shoot him in the head. At 10:15 the evening, Booth entered the back of Lincoln's theater box, crept up from behind, and fired at the back of Lincoln's head, mortally wounding him. Lincoln's guest grappled with Booth, and Booth stabbed him and escaped. Lincoln was taken across the street to the Peterson house. After remaining in a coma for 9 hours, Lincoln died at 7:22 on the morning of April 15th. And they saluted him and said, now he belongs to the ages. Lincoln's body was placed in a flag-wrapped coffin, which was loaded into a hearse. Y'all, it's so sad. Imagine like how different things could have been, how blacks probably would have had writing votes sooner. They probably would have had them in the 1860s because he was fighting for that. He wanted to give them civil rights. He wanted to give them the same equalities as white people and natives. So it's just crazy because African American people wouldn't even get voting rights to the 1950s. And honestly, I think that if he would have lived, things would have progressed sooner. So it's sad because he was like on the forefront for the African American communities, trying to give them the same rights and equalities as whites. He was placed in a flag-wrapped coffin and was loaded into a hearse and escorted to the White House by Union soldiers. President Johnson was sworn in later that day. 2 weeks later, Booth, refusing to surrender, was tracked to a farm in Virginia. He was mortally shot by Sergeant Boston Corbett and died April 26. Secretary of War had issued orders that Booth be taken alive, so Corbett was initially arrested to be court-martialed, but after a brief interview, Stanton declared him a patriot and dismissed the charge. So y'all been crooked all this time. So he actually has a huge statue in Washington, D.C. that's beautiful. I've seen it. I went and, yeah, there's a lot of memorial to him, and now I understand why. The shit they don't teach in school, the more you know. So in conclusion, if it wasn't for Lincoln, this world might not be a free world, which is crazy. I had no clue. They don't teach you this shit in school, and they sure as hell didn't teach me because my upbringing was completely different. So there was a Las Vegas man, you guys, that was killed. Let me see if I can find the article because I don't like reading from my phone. Yeah, a man called 911 for help this yesterday. And he was killed and shot in his own home with his daughter. So he called 911 help during a home invasion. The police get there and shoot him. Listen. It's crazy. Poor guy. A Las Vegas man called the police for help during a home invasion before an officer fatally shot him. Brandon Durham, 911, early November 12th, said he was hiding with his 15-year-old daughter after someone broke into his home. Durham is heard pleading with the dispatcher to send someone as soon as possible. Oh my God. Corin identified the officer who shot Durham as Alexander Bookman, a 26-year-old officer. Y'all, why are they always 29, 24, 22, 26? I'm just saying. Bookman was one of the first officers to arrive and kick down the front door. Corin said the officer found Durham in a hallway, struggling over a knife with an intruder. So, in a short clip of the body cam footage, the police is yelling for them to drop the knife. So, it's the father who called for help, the intruder. At this point, by the time the cops get there, they had to kick down the door, and they see these two men fighting over a knife. And they start saying, drop the knife, drop the knife. Durham and the intruder both fall to the floor. Hold on. The officer yells for them to drop the knife, then fires 1 round. Durham and the intruder both fall to the floor. Then the officer moves closer and fires 5 more rounds while standing over them. What? Hold up. Wait a minute. Why is he not in jail? Like, this is not an execution. It's not supposed to be. Durham, 43, died in his home with his 15-year-old daughter hiding upstairs, scared as hell, hoping the cops are going to come rescue him. The intruder was arrested and charged with home invasion and assault. Hell no. Hell no. That's it? Remind me not to go to Las Vegas because they sound like a bunch of idiots out there. First of all, I understand that these are high-stress situations, but the last thing that you do is pull out your gun and start firing at random people, especially when it's a home invasion. You need to assess the scene and see who is the perpetrator and who is the victim here. Talk about a fuck-up. This guy not only needs to be laid off because he was too young to be an officer anyways. 26 is too young. Not sorry, it's too young. Men do not mature till 43. At 26, you're still a child. It's unfortunate. I know some of y'all are doing big girl, big boy shit at 26. Good for you. But psychologically speaking, there's a level of immaturity, impulsivity, non-clear thinking, poor judgment that still comes with the territory of being in your 20s. These officers, I understand that they're desperate for cops, but this should not have went down like this. This father should still be alive. His 15-year-old daughter, I went to go find information on, whether or not he was a single dad. It doesn't say anything. His daughter did come out and say that she is absolutely disgusted with the Las Vegas Police Department and that she's pissed that they treated her father like a suspect and not the victim. This 15-year-old girl is going to have to, life is so hard without parents. And she's going to grow up without her father, who seemed to be trying to protect her. So it looks like that the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department said that Mr. Bookman, who was the officer that was 26, that probably didn't need a firearm, he had been placed on paid administrative leave while they conduct an internal interview into the November 11th incident. So the father called 911 to report that 2 people were shooting outside and were trying to break into his home. By the time the cops get there, they had broke into his home. He told his daughter not to leave the closet. He went downstairs to try to prevent them from going upstairs to hurt her, at which time the Las Vegas Police Department pulls up. They see cars with their windows busted out. They can hear something going on the inside of this house where the 911 call come from, and the father gave the address, and then they proceed to kick down the door. They also noticed damage to the house and heard shouting from inside of the home. They prompted Mr. Bookman to kick down the door, the front door, to enter. That's the officer. Body cam footage released by the police shows that Mr. Bookman was walking through the home with his gun drawn while screaming and banging can be heard out of view. I don't know why they don't teach them to shoot motherfuckers in the legs. I would have shot both of them in the foot and let them roll around for a minute, why did you have to go for the kill? He unloaded his service weapon into this father, not knowing which one was the perpetrator and which one was the victim. It's 2 men rustling around on the ground with a knife. And do y'all not look at damn pictures of these people before you show up on the scene? Don't you have a way to run their name, their address, and see what they look like through driver's license photos? I don't understand how these mistakes are made. I just know that I'm smarter than that. I would have knew immediately who the father of that home was. When he called and dropped his address, I would have been like, oh, driver's license photo. Which one? What does he look like? Do they not do any of this? I'm just saying it might be a good idea to know who you're dealing with, whose home are you going to. Lord have mercy. It's just, this should have never happened. It's happening all over the country. This is not a isolated incident. There's been tons of people recently that have called police for help and ended up dead. It comes from them not being trained properly, them not having adequate staffing. There's multiple reasons why this is happening. But in my opinion, it has a lot to do with the level of maturity and education in one. And I'm just saying that, in my opinion, patrolling, being a patrol officer, is something for somebody who has maybe been a desk officer for 10 years. Or a correction officer did 5 years in the military, and then, he's hitting his 30s, early 40s. Okay, we can take you on patrol. Like, there needs to be, I mean, you would think that they did psychologicals on these people, and they do. But I honestly think that a lot of stuff flies under the radar, because they are so desperate just to have any officers to be working. So this officer turns the corner of an L-shaped hallway, and he finds a shirtless man wrestling over a knife with a woman wearing a ski mask, later identified as 31-year-old Alejandra Boradex. This bitch got on a ski mask and you don't know which one's the intruder. You see what I'm saying? Like, me and you, we wouldn't have made that mistake. We would have knew immediately. Shirtless father obviously was in bed when this masked woman broke into his damn house. I just don't understand how you can be this dumb. And this poor girl is going to have to live without her father because this idiot couldn't tell the difference between a shirtless dad bod and a masked intruder. So he says, drop the knife, seconds before firing a shot that hit Mr. Durham. This shot sent Mr. Durham, the father, and the masked woman flying to the ground. Mr. Book then fires 5 more shots at Mr. Durham, saying, put your hands up. He's on administrative paid leave. We've got to end that. See, we've got to end that. They don't deserve administrative paid leave. They're doing dumb shit like this. This is not, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out who the intruder was and who the father was. This is disgusting. The father, Durham's daughter, who was 15 years old, I'm disgusted in how the Metropolitan Police told my father after killing him to stay down. I'm disgusted that the Metropolitan Police will allow me to live fatherless for the rest of my life. The family's lawyer has asked for an immediate arrest warrant for Mr. Bookman. Absolutely, he needs to be in jail. Absolutely. I mean, that's just careless as hell. You got to be dumb as a box of rocks. Yeah, he absolutely needs to be arrested. The family is requesting that. So it says, unlike a civil case in which an individual's negligence is at issue, criminal cases require proof of a person's criminal intent. What about a person's criminal stupidity? You can't tell the difference between a mask and a dad bod? Honey, I'm going to keep y'all updated on this because I do have a feeling that he will be arrested. I think that the family is going to push, if not sue the hell out of the Metropolitan Police Department in Las Vegas, and rightfully so, because you have to be completely a dummy to not know who the intruder was and who it wasn't. And that's one of those things where if you see a father trying to fight off somebody with a knife, you either A, holster your gun and go and help the father, or B, you shoot that bitch in the foot or the face. Not the father, though. God, that poor 15-year-old girl. And just imagine being in the closet, hearing your dad getting killed, and then you come downstairs because you know the cops are there, and then you see this man's body. Like, it's horrific. It should have never happened. So this is crazy. This is Ocala, Ocala, Florida. Sorry, I wanted to refresh my memory. This girl is she's 15 as well, ironically. She's facing a charge of aggravated manslaughter of a child after shooting and killing another teen at a Florida home. This happened November 24th, so this just happened day before yesterday. A 15-year-old girl is facing charges of aggravated manslaughter of a child after shooting and killing her friend at a Florida home on the evening of October 23rd. The Marion County deputies responded to reports of a shooting at the Ocala home in Marion Oaks subdivision. Investigators discovered that the teen shot a 14-year-old who was at the home along with 4 other juveniles to smoke marijuana. According to deputies, the girl initially denied firing the weapon, saying it went off accidentally after someone dropped it, claiming that she didn't know it was loaded. However, later she told authorities she heard the victim pull the trigger earlier, leading her to believe that the firearm was unloaded. That's when she grabbed the gun and pulled the trigger, pointing at the victim's face. It went off and killed her. And this is why we do not leave firearms unlocked. The 15-year-old was arrested on Thursday on aggravated manslaughter of a child charge. The Marion County Sheriff's Office is investigating where and how they got a hold of the firearm. And they were smoking pot. Where the hell are the parents? I know they 15 and 14, but listen, some of y'all are brave as hell. That's still too young to be unsupervised with multiple other teenagers doing God knows what in a home by themselves. Y'all are just too trusting. I guess y'all weren't teenagers once. I know I was, and I was a hellion, honey. I got into all kinds of stuff. Hellion. We was setting stuff on fire, damn breaking into my parents' bedroom, sneaking out of the house in the middle of the night. Like, my dad had to screw my window shut. I was running away because they were abusing me. So, let's screw the windows shut in case we have a house fire and then we need to get out, right? Let's see. Y'all, I'm sweating. I've had the sweat since I stopped smoking marijuana. I didn't know that was a thing, but it is. It is. Insomnia and severe sweats. I guess that's what happens when you smoke pot for as long as I have and then you quit. I need to know how to say the word. I don't... No. Okay, a tariff? Listen. It's Trump news and I can't even say the damn word. I gotta... Y'all told me the other day, but it's better for me to go to Google and... No, I want you to... Tariffs. God, y'all. I'm going to take some English classes soon. Tariffs. Anyways, Trump threatens tariffs. Please don't hit me. God, dude, you're not paying attention. He says that he plans to tax the hell. It's taxes. That's what it means. Tariffs. It's taxes. He gonna tax the hell out of people. So Trump says he plans to enact new tariffs on Canada, China, and Mexico on his first day in office. Mexico and Canada are the United States' 2 top trading partners, accounting for nearly 30% of trade volumes. President-elect Donald Trump said Monday that his incoming administration would slap new tariffs on imported... Why don't they just say taxes? Taxes on imported goods from Mexico, Canada, and China, solidifying a key campaign promise that would have a major impact on trade. Trump said in a post on Truth Social that he plans to impose a 25% tax on products imported from Mexico, Canada, framing the proposal as a response to the ongoing fentanyl crisis. Okay, Mr. Trump. On January 20th, as one of my many first executive orders, I will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tax on all products coming to the United States and its ridiculous open borders. This tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and illegal aliens stop the invasion of our country. Oh my God, y'all, I got chill bumps. Y'all, that was so smart. By doing this, he is forcing Mexico to get their people in damn order, or they're going to pay a hefty price. He's saying these drugs and these people are going to stop coming here, or else we are going to tax you so hard, it's going to affect your economy. That is smart. Why have we not done that before now? We have hundreds of thousands of people dying every year from freaking drug overdoses. Yeah, I know. Canada, Canada, I feel for you guys, because I know that y'all got it pretty bad up there right now. Y'all do. I saw what they tried to do to Jordan. I see Justin Trudeau, another pedophile, in my opinion. It's sick. It's absolutely sick. And you guys' story impacted us. I think that a lot of Republican lawmakers have been watching what was going on up there and knew that it was spreading down here. I mean, and it's spread in other countries too. The UK has been going through it. There's a lot of countries that have been going through it as far as immigration, drugs, the economy collapsing, high inflation, rent prices, the leftist movement, the wokeism, the LGBTQ plus losing their freaking minds. It's not just America that's going through this. It's the whole world that's been impacted by crappy politicians and people in positions of power that shouldn't be. And we need to remember this, because shit went south in less than 4 years. That quick. This whole world changed in less than 4 years. That quick. So Trump said, I've had many talks with China about the massive amounts of drugs, in particular fentanyl, being sent into the United States, but to no avail. Until such time as the drugs stop coming, we will be charging China an additional 10% tax. I done forgot how to say it. Tax. Oh, God. So they're going to charge China 25% to Canada and Mexico, and a 10% tax to China, above any additional taxes on all of their many products coming to the United States of America. And this is what I'm talking about, y'all. Listen, trying something new is better than not trying anything at all, honey, and just continuing to let things get worse and kill Americans that are incapable of having the strength to walk away from addiction. In response to Trump's announcement, the Chinese embassy in Washington said that the economic and trade cooperation between the U.S. and China was mutually beneficial in nature. As you create the chemicals to send to Mexico to make drugs to ship to America to kill us. Fun fact. Trump said that China had taken steps to stop, or hold on, who said that? No, that's not Trump. Liupengyu, somebody, he's the embassy spokesperson for China. He said that China had taken steps to stop the flow of illegal drugs since President Joe Biden and the Chinese President Jinping, agreed to resume counter-narcotics operations at a meeting in California last year. Bullshit! Y'all so full of it. Joe Biden's a drug addict. Whose cocaine was it? Come on, man. Somebody in the White House is a damn cokehead. We know Hunter is. You think for a moment that they care about ending the war on, this war on drugs that we have? Absolutely not. They want it to get worse. They want y'all to be on drugs. They want y'all to be diluted and polluted in the freaking head so you don't know what's going on. They've allowed this stuff to cross our borders so that Americans will die and become brainwashed. Bullshit. The whole criminal family is on drugs, in my opinion. They all own something. Kamala over here, damn drinking box wine and taking Klonopin before she goes on the damn Oprah show. Bullshit. Allegedly. So Canadian officials stressed the close relationship between Canada and the U.S. and said that they would discuss trade and border security with the incoming Trump administration. Canada places the highest priority on border security and the integrity of our shared border. Y'all, they just be saying whatever, don't they? Mexico and Canada are the United States' top two trading partners, according to nearly 30%, accounting for nearly 30% of trade volumes. The vehicle manufacturing industry, dairy, paper products, and building supplies such as wood are just some of the products that would face disruptions. Well, maybe they need to fall in line and comply. The Department of Homeland Security said that the vast majority of the fentanyl law enforcement seizes as it is being smuggled into the United States is discovered in personal vehicles driving across legal borders crossing by U.S. citizens. Do what? That didn't even make sense. So they're saying that it's drug smugglers from U.S. citizens that are bringing the drugs over the Mexican border. The vast majority of the fentanyl. That's what the Department of Homeland Security is saying. But once again, we know that the Department of Homeland Security is polluted. So, do we believe... listen, I don't believe nothing the government says at this point. The data obtained by the Libertarian Institute in August showed that U.S. citizens comprised 80% of individuals caught with fentanyl during border crossings at port entries from 2019 to 24. Maybe because they're over here fucking starving and they got to make quick cash to pay their damn rent. I mean, I don't doubt, but I don't believe that either. That's just at the border. We're not talking about planes, trains, or damn boats that are bringing the crap over. That is just people that are crossing over the border trying to smuggle drugs. And a lot of Americans do that to make quick cash. It's not right, it's wrong, but they're trying to say that it's Americans that are bringing the drugs over. Bullshit. We know that that's not true from statistics. So, U.S.-China's largest export market already imposes a number of taxes on Chinese goods. In addition to maintaining most of the taxes Trump introduced in his first term, this year Biden increased the tax rate on $18 billion in Chinese products such as electronic vehicles, the tax on which has quadrupled from 25% to 100%. On the campaign trail, Trump declared he would impose a 20% blanket tax on all imports and add taxes on at least 60% of Chinese products. I mean, they are our enemies. Why are we not already doing that anyways? I mean, I know that we do import, export with them in mass quantities. Most of the shit we have here comes from China, which I don't really care for because, once again, they're our enemies. And I read somewhere, too, that they control all of our antibiotics in the state. What percentage of antibiotics come from the Chinese? I thought it was like 70%, but it might be like 60%. A Department of Commerce study found that 97% of antibiotics in the U.S. come from China. Another report said the global exports, China accounts for 42%. So which is it, Google? And the APIs said that about 80% of the APIs used to make drugs in the U.S. come from China and other countries. China is also the world's largest producer of generic drugs, with more than 90% of its pharmaceutical manufacturers producing generic products. So we get a lot of our prescription medications from them, which is kind of scary if you think about, but whatever. It wouldn't be hard to kill us all, is all I'm saying. We all get one bad cold and they cut off our antibiotics. I don't know, I don't know. If you are enemy of me, I don't want nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be damned if I'm going to be trading goods with the enemy, but that's what we've done for centuries, and that's how we keep peace in the world, and that's how it's good for the better of the world for everybody to get along and trade goods, and it's beneficial economically. I understand you get more flies with honey than vinegar. Economics and retail trade groups estimate that the taxes on goods following the U.S. could cost Americans billions annually. Bullshit. For example, a $50 pair of shoes could easily cost $65. Well, it ain't no different than what we got going on now. Everything's already so damn expensive. I don't believe that. That was wrote by NBC, so you know how they are. They're woke. They're going to write anything, even if it's a lie. Prosecutor drops federal criminal case against Trump. No way. Yeah, hit enter. Makes me so annoyed when my computer won't work. They're dropping his federal charges. Looks like their cases are falling apart. How all of Trump's criminal cases fell apart as Jack Smith drops federal charges. He dropped 2 criminal cases yesterday. Oh, it's not letting me read it. You piece of crap. Y'all ain't worth a damn. Alright, it looks like the court. Smith asked the court to dismiss 2 criminal cases against Trump in light of his pending inauguration. And Trump's criminal case in Georgia is expected to be postponed until at least 2029. Leaving Trump's New York conviction as the only charge against him that have been holding up through his sentencing is now on hold potentially until after he leaves office. And Judge DeJuan Merchant is still weighing whether to throw out the verdict. This is so stupid. Trump was indicted in August of 23 for trying to overturn the 2020 election. Why wasn't the Biden administration arrested for stealing it? That's the bigger question. For rigging it, in my opinion. It's just crazy. And though the case was originally scheduled to go to trial in March, the proceedings were paused when Trump asked for the charges to be thrown out because he has presidential immunity, a request the Supreme Court granted in part in July after the issue took 7 months to play out and forcing prosecutors to retool the indictment. After delaying the case after the election day while he decided how to move forward, ultimately filing a new indictment, Smith moved for the charges to be dropped entirely Monday. It's probably smart, you know, because he's about to be president and he's about to prove all you fuckers wrong and prove that that election was stolen. It's not hard. We have video proof. Ballot boxes being stuffed with fake votes. Hundreds, if not thousands of them. Dead people voting. So it looks like the judge formally agreed to dismiss the case. He was also indicted in June of 23 for allegedly withholding White House documents and obstructing the government's investigation into them. The case was assigned to Trump's appointed U.S. District Attorney, Eileen Cannon, who already had a reputation for being deferential to Trump in the investigation that led up to his indictment. While Cannon originally scheduled the case to go to trial in May, Trump filed a number of motions trying to drag out the case that Cannon slow-walked ruling on. The judge ultimately ruling in May to suspend the trial indefinitely while issues were still pending and then dismissing the charges entirely in July. And while the special counsel appealed Cannon's ruling, Smith asked for that appeal to be put on hold after Trump's election and then moved Monday to have the case dropped entirely. Yeah. They know he's coming after them. The New York criminal case, Trump's criminal case in New York, was the only one to go to trial, and he was convicted in May on 34 counts of falsifying business records based on hush money payments he made to an adult film star, Stormy Daniels. Now listen, he was wrong. He was wrong. He was wrong. So, he deserves this because he was wrong. I understand that he was trying to pay off Stormy because he didn't want this to get to the media. It would have ruined his chances. But it's wrong. He shouldn't have been messing with this girl anyways. That's called karma. Okay? Don't be messing with no hookers. Okay? But he successfully delayed his sentencing, originally scheduled for July, with Merchant agreeing in September to postpone the sentencing until after the election in order to avoid any perception of political bias. Merchant then paused deadlines in the case after prosecutors said they needed to evaluate how the case should move forward in the light of Trump's election, and ruled Friday to postpone the sentencing while Trump tries to have a verdict thrown out on an account of his election. And while it's unclear when the sentencing could be rescheduled, prosecutors said before Merchant's ruling that while they don't want a verdict to be dismissed entirely, they think that it would be fair to postpone the sentencing until after Trump leaves office. Georgia election case. Trump and his allies were indicted in August of 23 for their efforts to overturn the 2020 election. And while a trial date for Trump was not set in the case, Fulton County District Attorney Fanny Willis asked for a trial to take place in August before Trump and his co-defendants asked for Willis to be disqualified for the case for her romantic relationship with lead prosecutor Nathan Ward. It wasn't just a sexual relationship. These people were flying around the country on taxpayer money, on campaign funds, drinking it up and partying it up in damn Costa Rica somewhere, and it was another country. Lots of countries. So we have a lead witness for the prosecution, Nathan Wood, screwing the prosecutor, Fanny Willis, and flying all over the country doing it. Fulton County does not have the best reputation of honest people. That's all I'm going to say. Don't fuck around and find out there in Georgia. While a court ruled in March that Willis could stay on the case, but Wade had to resign, the case is still on pause while an appeals court considers the issue. And while Trump, why is she still a prosecutor? Did y'all not hear her talk on the stand? A G is a G. I don't know. A G is a G. Like, girl. Oh my God, I just can't believe that she is still on this case and they did not fire her. I'm sure he's going to be on that. So he expected to still try and have the charges thrown out anyway. The court will likely, at minimum, pause the criminal case against him until after he leaves office. If you didn't hear me talk about Fanny. Fanny is a prime example of how the fudge did you get in your position. This is Fanny. She was part of a DEI program. She's undereducated, immature, defensive, and unable to take responsibility for her actions. We don't need people like that working as district attorneys, no matter what color they are. No matter what color they are. Let me just be clear. Oh, there was something posted. So it looks like a Georgia. Let's go to this one. Hold on. Hearing her talk on the stand, y'all, was just unbelievable. You know, you would think, most of us, we have our business voice. Like, I talk to y'all one way, but if you were to call me and be like, hello, yes, absolutely. We got our phone voice. Fanny ain't got no phone voice. Fanny is just straight up stupid. So this was posted 4 days ago. The Fulton County District Attorney Fanny Willis has pledged to drive forward in her prosecution of Donald Trump, even as he once again ascends to the presidency. I hope that's how you say that. But the Georgia Court of Appeals may have other plans. The appeals court on Monday abruptly canceled oral arguments scheduled for a December 5th in Georgia versus Trump, the racketeering case alleging that Trump and more than a dozen of his allies conspired to steal the 2020 election. Not the actual thieves accusing the Republican Party of stealing. It's just crazy. She admitted on stand that she used her campaign funds to fly around the world, which is illegal. Why is she not in jail? She also was screwing her lead prosecution witness, which is illegal. I hope he goes after her, and I hope he throws her under the jail. All of them. Now, he was absolutely wrong messing with a hooker. He was absolutely wrong paying off this hooker. He was absolutely wrong in a lot of the statements that he said back in 2016. They were taken out of context, and he was playing with fire. Okay, I'm just being honest. A lot of the stuff that he said back then, he could have denounced certain things. He refused to denounce certain things. It added to the riots. It added to the fire. Okay, he was wrong. I see both sides. But this woman is insufferable. Like, she needs to be in jail. She is a criminal who is a district attorney. I wonder how many people she's thrown in jail for shit they didn't do. So Trump's appeal at the Fulton County Superior Court, the judge, Scott McAfee order, which declined to disqualify Willis after bombshell revelations about a romantic relationship with her chosen special prosecutor, was to be argued before a 3-judge panel. As part of their effort to dismiss the case, Trump and his co-defendants alleged that Willis's relationship meant that she should be recused from the case. Absolutely. Absolutely. Most cases before the appellate court are decided on pledges without oral argument. Nonetheless, the panel's cancellation unleashed a wave of speculation about their intentions. There's a decent chance that the appeal gets dismissed as So there's a good chance that the case gets dismissed because the judge wants to see how the case will proceed now that Trump is president-elect. Maybe it's hot in here. Sweating. Federal prosecutors are now concerned that a vengeful White House will target them in retribution. Why shouldn't they? You're locking up a man for the shit y'all did. Why shouldn't they come after you? And you're using taxpayer funds and campaign funds to break the law. It's MCAFEE is the judge. Like Willis, had vowed earlier this year to continue the case at best. He could, even as appeals winged through the higher courts. But in June, the appellate court put a hold on the lower court proceeding until the questions of Willis's involvement in the case was resolved. And then the July date was set for oral arguments a month after the election. Then in July, it set a date for oral arguments a month after the election. Fanny, fake old Fanny. How the fudge did you get in your position? She was the first black woman to hold office as the district attorney of Fulton County, Georgia. Now, that includes multiple counties, y'all. And it's a lot. It includes... She was born in Inglewood, California, so she's a leftist. Her father was a founder of the Black Panthers. The Black Panther Party was a Marxist... We have got to do better family research on these people. We've got to do better research. So the Black Panther Party was a Marxist-Leninist and Black Power political organization founded by the college students. In October of 66, the party was active in the United States between 66 and 82, with chapters in cities like San Francisco, New York, all of the liberal cities, Chicago, Los Angeles, Seattle, Philadelphia. They were also active in many prisons and had international chapters in the United Kingdom and Algeria. So their main objective, their party's core practice, was its open carry patrols, cop watching, designed to challenge the excessive force and misconduct of the Oakland Police Department. Now that I understand, but the whole Marxist thing, I don't. It's just crazy that we know that her father was one, and then she's put into office as a district attorney. What do you think she believes in? He raised her with his ideologies. This is the second one. Kamala Harris was also raised by him. Fun fact. Do some lineage on her. She's in fact not black. Crazy. Mind blown. She can't even be honest about who her family is. Go to Candace's channel. Candace Owens has 3 or 4 videos breaking down Kamala Harris's history, where she comes from, and who she was raised by. And it is no secret. Okay, if you know, you know. It's just crazy. It's just crazy that we have people running around out here in positions of power that were raised by communists. Fucking, it's crazy. Hold on, I wanted to click on that. What a dumbass. I mean, do they not do any kind of damn family background, history? Do they not ask, do you believe in God? What do you believe in? Yeah, Marxism is a communist ideology that became the largest function in the communist movement in the world in the years following the October Revolution. And we still have them running around out here. And I can promise you that if you were raised by one, you probably have the same basic ideologies as your parents. Like, we eventually all come back around. Well, most of us that are normal. How did she get... I want to read about her early career. Willie Fannis. Willie's her first government job was a solicitor, prosecuting misdemeanors and city ordinance violations. She spent 16 years as a prosecutor in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. Her most prominent case was her prosecution of the Atlanta public school cheating scandal. Willis is an assistant district attorney at the time. She served as lead prosecutor from 2014 to 15. Trial of 12 educators accused of correcting answers entered by students to inflate the scores of the students administered standardized tests. 11 of the 12 were convicted of racketeering under Georgia's 2015. In 2018, she went into private practice. That year, she ran for a seat on the Fulton County Superior Court and lost. In 2019, she became chief municipal judge for the South Fulton, Georgia. In 2020, she was elected district attorney of Fulton County, defeating a 6-term Paul Howard Jr. and her former boss. In this role, she is known for using Georgia's RICO statute to prosecute non-mobsters. And she's also known for prosecuting former President Donald Trump and 18 alleged co-conspirators. I believe it. In 22, an employee in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office alleged that Willis fired her for uncovering plans to misuse federal grant funds. And she already admitted on the stand that she misused campaign funds. She admitted that she misused taxpayer funds. So if she admitted to that, then I believe this person. So it says that this woman was fired because she uncovered plans to misuse federal grant funds. In 2014, the House Judiciary Committee subpoenaed Willis regarding the former employee's whistleblower complaint after a taped conversation of the employee discussing the alleged misuse of federal funds with Willis was released publicly. We know all of this, and she still ain't been fired? Tell me they all crooked without telling me they all crooked. The committee gave Willis a deadline as of February 23rd of 24th. Willis said the employee was terminated for cause and that the $488,000 in federal grant funding was utilized appropriately. So we just gonna believe her, even though we know that she not only lied on the stand, but she admitted to fraud on the stand. So we just gonna believe that this $500,000 was utilized appropriately. All I'm saying is there's a lot of gullible people out here, apparently, because that would have never flew if I was working there. It would have never flew. I need receipts, honey. Receipts. ASAP. Pronto. Andale. Where's the receipts? She just said, oh, we used the money appropriately. And they believed her, it sounds like. In November of 2024, Willis won her re-election bid. Earlier in the Democratic Party primary election, she defeated Christian Wise Smith. By October, Willis had raised over $2 million. She will face Republican Courtney Kramer in the November general election. Hold up. Wait a minute. And Courtney. Maybe this Courtney girl get in there and knock Fanny the hell up out of there. So it looks like she might have lost. Courtney Kramer. I mean, she has no couth. Fanny Willis said she's going to lose badly. Talking about Courtney Kramer. God, she disgusts me. Her face, it's just so punchable. Courtney Kramer was a lawyer who interned at the White House Counsel under Trump and wants to bring transparency and accountability to office. Fanny Willis says confidently that she's going to win. She's going to lose, and she's going to lose badly, said Willis of Kramer. Like, listen at her grammar. Like, she is not, listen at her grammar. She's going to lose, and she's going to lose badly. I just feel like we need to have people in office that have a little more class and couth and can make a statement that is not saturated in stupidity. So Courtney's campaign slogan was, it's not about right versus left, it's about right versus wrong. Amen. And I don't think she won. It's not saying. Kramer said she entered the district attorney's race in March because of the Trump indictment. It prompted her to run, accusing Willis of pursuing the case for personal political gain. While some have speculated that Kramer is running to dismiss the case, she said she would recuse herself if elected because she served under Trump at the White House and has worked with two of the others indicted. Not an honest person saying, no, I'm not going to handle it. I'm going to hand it off to somebody else. Hand it off. And she ain't but 31, and Fanny Willis is how old? 50-something? And acts like a 10-year-old? Hey, listen, some people never reach that 32 or that 43, okay? Some people just stay dumb forever and never mature. Kramer criticized Willis, as many others have too, for crowded conditions at the Maine Fulton County Jail, saying that people have languished there while their cases go unindicted. Also said that violent crime has risen under Fanny's watch. The Fulton County's main jail remains plagued with problems, overcrowding, and the system has not improved. There's thousands of people in custody, with 25% of them unindicted. They're just holding them in jail. 25% of the jail is unindicted under Fanny Willis. Like, so it doesn't tell me who won, and it might, you would think, I guess she won re-election, Fanny Willis. Yes, November 1st, she won re-election, so she beat that girl, Courtney, who probably would have been good for the county, the Fulton. All of this is just so crazy, y'all. It be blowing my mind. I just don't understand how she admitted on the stand to fraud. I mean, it's perjury. She lied. She was caught in multiple lies. I don't understand how she's still able to be a prosecutor. I'm glad that they're starting to drop some of his federal charges. I think a lot of it was bullshit. It's nothing that Biden didn't do, or Biden's done worse. Biden has done worse, and they don't go after him. Now, he was wrong with messing with Stormy and cheating on his wife, and damn, listen, unfortunately, as I said the other day, a lot of these guys are doing that, right and left. Once again, lust does not discriminate. If you got it in it, you got it in you. And I do think that Trump has turned over a new page. He's turned over a new leaf. He's grew a whole new tree. I think that a lot of things have changed him. I've watched him change. It's one of the things that made me start liking him, is the changes that he has implemented. He has tried to learn to hold his tongue. He has tried to say things in a different way. I've even seen a belief switch in him. I feel like this election, he leaned more on God and the foundation of our founding fathers, and he leaned into that than he did in the 2016 election, or, when he was president before, 2016. So there's been a switch in him. And I think that the plans that Elon, Vivek, RFK, Tulsi, all of these great people coming together is exactly what we needed to put this country, our citizens, back at the forefront of this country. It's just crazy that things got this bad in 4 years. But it goes to show that we are blessed to be in this country, and we have to be cautious about who we vote for, because it could all be over in a matter of minutes. I mean, look at the Biden administration the last minute trying to start World War III. It's just sickening. It's sickening. I can't believe that I was ever Democrat, but I think a lot of us were, and then we switched sides because of this. Trump is not an angel. He's a sinner. He's a man just like all of us. He's a sinner. We are all sinners. We all make mistakes, and we are all subject to make poor decisions. And just like a lot of people, I don't know, maybe him almost dying. I did see a change in him when he walked through, when he did, the day after he was shot in the ear, and his ears all bandaged up, and he came through the arena, just the look on him, he looked like he was humbled. Like he was, it changed him. I have no doubt that getting shot changed him, intrinsic, like inside. It changed him. He just looked like a man on a mission, but a humble man on a mission. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. He's going to go down in history right next to Lincoln. He will. Mark my words. He will. He's going to be right next to Lincoln and our founding fathers. This political movement is the cops showing up. I guess I have been here for 2 hours, so I forget. I overstay my welcome running my mouth. I really love studying this stuff, you guys. We might do some more stuff on war this week because I've been learning about bombs and all the different like artillery weapons that they had. That stuff is interesting to me. Crazy. There's still tons of it buried out on land and stuff. My stepfather's grandparents had huge amounts of land, and they used to find old military stuff out on the land. Dad said that they found like cannonballs, they'd found like bits of metal that went to guns or all kinds of stuff, and they donated it to some Civil War museum that was down the road from Grandma's house. So that's pretty cool, right? I never seen any of it, but this was back in like this, it would have been the 60s or the 70s when my stepfather was born. So it was back in the day. I guess they's probably out there tilling up land or something, finding pieces of old Civil War shit. Aw. My one surviving great aunt, she's elderly, 76, late 70s. Shit, y'all, I don't know. She's elderly. Her and my uncle, they're very active in the church. She teaches Sunday school. He drives the church bus. He fell out of a tree year before last and almost died. He fell 30 feet, and it was a miracle he even survived at his age. They're the only two surviving like relatives that I have. They live far, far away. And you know, they're elderly. I don't like to bother them with my personal life. I don't never ask them for any help because, you know, they have their own family and like, you know, but, it is nice when she texts me and asks if I'm alive. I'm like, yeah, I miss you too. Love you. I'm alive. Oh man, we'll talk this afternoon. I gotta go see if I can get something done with this tire. I've got $20. I'm hoping that they'll agree to take the back tire and put it on the front tire because I've got two different size tires, which can mess up probably your axle. I don't know. I've got 3 16s and I got 1 17. But since this is a rear-wheel drive car, somebody said that I should put one of the tires in the front so that it's not throwing off some kind of something. I don't know. The government is here to help. Who said that? Who said it? Was that Nixon? He said, you need to be concerned when the government says, hey, we're the government and we're here to help. I think that was Nixon, but I could be wrong. I've heard that. Great saying. The government is not your friend, is what he was saying. It's nice. I mean, imagine hearing a president say that nowadays. It'll never happen. But they wasn't scared to say shit like that back in the day. That's what we need more of. And to find out that Lincoln was not even smart, like, I mean, obviously, he had more common sense and education than most, but to find out that he actually only went to school for less than 12 months, by the time he was 15 years old, he could only read, and they don't think that he even knew how to write properly. But look at everything he did. It's just amazing. I love history, y'all. I love history. We'll talk this afternoon. Y'all be safe. Y'all pray for me because God knows I need it. And I'm praying for you guys. Bye, y'all.